Okay, you're now being recorded and you're all hiding. Turn your cameras off. Okay, well, thank you for volunteering to judge, and thank you for coming to this training. I will send out a recording of this training, so there may be some parts that you want to watch a second time, and so I'll send that out. So thank you very much. But first of all, there's a lot to cover. The things I'm going to share with you over the next hour are things that I've been sharing with your children over the last 4 weeks, 4 hours a week. I can't. It's 5 weeks. So I've spent around 20 hours, or some of them of how also had help sessions and answered questions. So I've spent 20 hours teaching them these things, and I'm going to be going over it with you in 1 hour. So you're not gonna learn everything. That's okay. Don't worry about it. I'll send you some documents through email, so you'll have handouts or notes, if you will, that you can refer to. So don't expect to be a perfect judge. Don't worry about making mistakes. It's okay. It's much better to have you judging than to not have judges and have to cancel the tournament or something like that. So whatever, it's your opinion. The students are being trained to be persuasive, to in a general sense, right? So the idea is to be persuasive and communicate well to the average adult on the street, or to anyone, right? To a wide variety of people. So if it's me or somebody like me who's a debate coach is their judge, they should know how to give a speech and communicate and be persuasive. Or if it's somebody who doesn't know anything about debate rules or debate theory at all, they still need to be persuasive. And so that's the idea of training. So don't worry about not getting it all or not being qualified. You are qualified. The biggest qualification is just your willingness to help. So thank you for your help. Along those lines, I just want to share kind of where we stand. We still have 4 slots. Now we have team policy covered. The slots that we don't have are for Lincoln Douglas. And so one just got filled up recently, which is great. Looks like Courtney Stanley did that. Weiss's mom signed up for another one. So I want to thank you. I'm not fussing at you right now. I'm thanking you, but I'm also pleading with you. We still have 4 slots. So if I don't get these 4 slots, I'm not going to cancel the tournament. But what I am going to do is tell 3 students that they can't do LD, which I don't want to do. I don't want to do because they're excited about it. They've been working hard. It would be a shame. It's not their fault. And so I don't want to have to tell 3 students that they can't do LD. But if I can't fill up these slots, that's what I'm going to have to do, because there's no point in having a debate round and nobody can judge them. So yeah, so I'll see. Maybe it's 2. Maybe it's 2 that I'll have to disqualify. I'll figure out the numbers. But you can see we have 4 slots that we need to fill up. We need to fill up with judges. So if you can do an extra one, if you can find a friend or a cousin or anybody that's 18 years or older, they can watch this recording that I'm going to send out later. But they don't have to be qualified in any way. They just need to be willing. And the LD is only an hour. I mean, the round is less than an hour. You can fill out your ballot. We're talking about somebody giving up 1 hour of their day tomorrow for an LD round. And I know for some of you who are already judging, that's 1 extra hour. But anyway, but we need help. We need help here. So we have 4 rounds. If we don't fill them up, I'll have to tell a few students that they're not able to participate. In LD, everybody will be able to do TP or team policy, but LD is the one that we're still need help. Okay, so let me just go over with you some structure things, some format. Apologize, there we go. Trouble finding my file, but there it is. Okay, so for the team policy, I'm gonna do team policy first, and then I will go over Lincoln Douglas. Team policy is more complicated than Lincoln Douglas, so if I cover team policy first, then Lincoln Douglas will be easy to follow along if you follow everything with team policy. So team policy refers to teams, so it's 2 on 2. It's 4 debaters, 2 debaters going against 2 debaters, 2 teams of 2. Policy, they are debating federal government policy, and the particular federal government policy that they're debating these are complicated topics, by the way, so be sympathetic to these young students. These are complicated debate topics that they will be debating. But the government policy, the team policy topic is about artificial intelligence. So affirmative will say that the federal government needs to reform the use of artificial intelligence. So one basic idea, one basic principle here is that affirmative is arguing for a change. Now, the change could be in either direction. The change could be government should abolish all use of artificial intelligence. So they're gonna break it down. You know, not just artificial intelligence, but there's 3 topics going to be debated tomorrow. One of them is facial recognition technology, facial recognition. Another one is the gathering of information that internet companies like Google and Facebook do. Gathering of customers' information and selling it. And then the third one is the use of drones, unmanned aircraft or drones. So those are so within artificial intelligence, those are the 3 topics that they're going to be talking about: facial recognition technology, the use of drones, and internet companies gathering information about their customers and selling it. So affirmative is going to argue that there needs to be a change. The affirmative team is going to argue that the government policy should be changed. Now, they could change, the change could be in either direction, right? The change could be to ban the use of facial recognition technology by certain government agencies, or they might say that the police should not be allowed to use facial recognition technology. They might say that facial recognition technology in public places such as streets and sidewalks and shopping malls should be banned. Whatever it is, they might want to ban or restrict or regulate the use of facial recognition technology. On the other hand, they could argue the other direction. They could say we need more facial recognition technology. We need facial recognition technology on every street corner. So they don't have to be against facial recognition technology. They can be for it. They can in terms of the topic itself, they can argue for more of it, or they can argue for less of it. They can argue for regulation of it, different kinds of regulation, but whatever they do, they need to argue for a change. The affirmative team will be arguing for a change. Okay, so that's an important principle to remember, that the affirmative is arguing for a change. Hi, Courtney. Courtney, can you hear me? Hi, Courtney.
Hi there.
Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, no problem.
Really appreciate it.
No problem.
I had just gotten started, and I just said that on the affirmative, we're talking about team policy. Team refers to teams of 2. So it's 2 on 2, two teams of 2 debating against each other. And policy refers to government policy. So team policy is four debaters, 2-on-2, debating government policy, and the particular government policy that they're debating has to do with artificial intelligence technology. And within that broad umbrella, they have the debaters for tomorrow have picked three topics. One is facial recognition. One is drones, the use of drones and unmanned aircraft. And the third one is the use of internet companies gathering customers' information and selling it. Internet companies gathering customers' information and selling it. So those are the three topics. And the affirmative will be arguing for a change. Sometimes the affirmative team may be arguing to greatly reduce. So like an extreme example would be the federal government should ban all facial recognition technology. I mean, that's an extreme case, right? So I'm just saying they could reduce, they could ban it in certain places, like, not allowed in public places or whatever, or not allowed by the police department, whatever it is. So they could be sort of like to moderate or reduce or restrict or ban the use of this particular technology, or they could argue to greatly increase it. They could say, we need artificial technology, facial recognition technology everywhere. Every street corner, every school, every store. That's also an extreme example, right? But so they could be for increasing the technology, or they could be for decreasing the technology, or they could be for changing the regulations for the technology. Whatever it is, they need to argue for a change. That's affirmative's job, is to argue for a change. If affirmative does not argue for a change, then they're not doing their job. Negative will their job is to say, no, we don't need that change. First of all, there's no problem. The current situation is fine. It's not perfect, but it's okay, right? It's not bad at all. And if we do have problems, they're not big problems. The world's pretty good, right? America's doing all right. Let's just leave things the way they are. Or they could say, yeah, things aren't quite so perfect, but the affirmative team's plan will just make things worse. It won't help. So affirmative is arguing for a change. Negative is saying, nope, we don't need a change. Or even if a change is needed, we do not need the change that the affirmative team is proposing. Now, a core principle here is that the burden is on the affirmative team. So an easy way to remember this is, in our court system, the defendants, the people accused of a crime, are supposed to be presumed innocent until proven guilty beyond a shadow of a doubt. That's the standard within our criminal courts. Innocent until proven guilty. You can sort of, it's not exactly the same because we're not talking about crimes here, hopefully, but you can sort of transfer that principle that, in a courtroom, the prosecutor or the state has the burden of proof. In debate, the affirmative team has the burden of proof. The status quo, the condition, the way it is now, is presumed to be innocent or presumed to be okay, unless the affirmative team can persuade you, can demonstrate to you that there's a problem, and therefore we need to change something because there's a problem. Okay, so that's in a nutshell. I actually got into a little bit of debate theory, the nutshell of team policy debate theory, with the burden of being on the affirmative team. Let me go back to the structure of the team policy round. This is how it will go. The first speech is called the 1AC. That's the first affirmative constructive speech. It's the 1AC. So affirmative will go first, and they will give the constructive speech, meaning that they are building their argument, and that speech is 8 minutes. Now, I've told the students they need to time themselves. They need to time each other, right? They need to self-police with the time limits. They need to police each other. I don't want you judges having to be worried about timing. I want you to be able to focus on paying attention to the round. But they should have timers. That should start beeping and making noise when they fill up the 8 minutes. When somebody reaches the 8 minutes, they are allowed to sort of finish their sentence, but then wrap it up quickly and sit down, right? They should not still be talking at 8.5 minutes, or even 8 minutes and 15 seconds, right? If the beeper goes off, they should finish their sentence and then stop it, right? And so if they keep going, just gently remind them, hey, time's up. After that first speech is cross-examination. And when the same speaker will still be standing there after giving the speech, and the negative team The second speaker on the negative team will stand up and ask questions. And during cross-examination, the cross-examiner is only allowed to ask questions, not make statements, not make an argument, only ask questions. The cross-examiner is only allowed to ask questions, and the speaker should answer those questions. The next speech then is negative. So the 1AC has just gone, the first affirmative constructive, and now the 1NC will go, which is the first negative constructive. And that person will give an 8-minute speech. At the end of that 8-minute speech will be cross-examination for 3 minutes. Everything has a time limit. Every single thing has a time limit. And so again, during cross-examination, the cross-examiner can only ask questions, and then the person being cross-examined should answer those questions. The cross-examination here will be done by the first affirmative speaker. The rule is whoever's going to give the next speech should not be having to worry about doing cross-examination. So the cross-examiner is always the person who is not going to speak next. Okay, after that cross-examination, then the 2AC, which is the second affirmative constructive. This is the second speaker on the affirmative team. And again, it's a constructive speech, meaning they are continuing to build their arguments. In constructive speeches, the teams are allowed to introduce new arguments, new evidence, whatever it is. They're still building their case. They're building their case, right? So in the constructive, so they can add new arguments. And then after this 2AC, there's another cross-examination by the negative side. And then the 2NC, which is the second negative constructive speech, is for 8 minutes, and then cross-examination. After each one of the constructive speeches, there's a cross-examination. After the constructive speeches come the rebuttals. And so after the 2NC has gone, and then the cross-examination has happened, the next speech is the first negative rebuttal. So here you have negative kind of going back to back. You had a 2NC, and now but then a cross-examination, and now you're going to have the first negative rebuttal. We call that the 1NR, the 1NR for the first negative rebuttal, and that's a 5-minute speech. After the 1NR, the 1AR, which is a rebuttal speech, 5-minute, then the 2NR, and then the 2AR. In the rebuttal speeches, no new arguments can be introduced. They can introduce new evidence, but it has to relate to a previously made point. They can respond to the other team. If the other team made arguments, they can respond to those. But in the rebuttal speeches, they are not supposed to bring up any sort of completely new line of reasoning. They should not bring up a new line of argumentation. The rebuttal speeches should be for, they can bring up new evidence, but it should be for responding to arguments that have already been made in the constructives. They should not bring up new lines of argumentation. New arguments in the rebuttals should not be made. The rebuttal speeches are 5 minutes each, and again, the timeline, the time restriction should be followed, should be enforced. In addition to all of the speeches, each team is allowed 5 minutes of preparation time. The preparation time can come at any time in the round before any speech. The only restriction is it cannot come before the cross-examination. When somebody finishes their speech, the other team needs to get up right away and do the cross-examination. They're not allowed preparation time before doing the cross-ex. But other than that, the teams, after cross-ex, before any speech, each team can take 5 minutes of preparation time. Now, of course, when one team is using their preparation time, the other team can also use that time. So each team can have up to 5 minutes. They don't have to take the preparation time if they don't want to, but each team can take 5 minutes, and they should monitor that, right? They should say, okay, starting prep time, and they should pull out their timers or their watches or whatever it is and time it. And if they use 1.5 minutes of prep time, then they should say, okay, 1.5 minutes used. We have 3.5 minutes remaining of prep time. Each team should limit their their designated prep time to 5 minutes. But what that allows for is each team potentially gets up to 10 minutes of prep time during the round if both teams take their allotted 5 minutes. So one thing I want you to understand is that if you just add up all the rounds, all the time limits of the different speeches, and that's 64 minutes. And if you add 10 minutes for prep time, that's 74 minutes. So a lot of these debate rounds won't go that long because these are new debaters, they're inexperienced, and their speeches, some of them will be short without a lot of content. But if you get two stronger teams who've done a lot of preparation and are really gunning, to try to win, a team policy debate round could go for 74 minutes. And then if there's always like time to get up and clear their throat or whatever, but so a good 74, 75, 70, somewhere between 75 and 80 minutes. So that's a long time. A team policy debate round is a long debate round. It's tiring. Each team is going to do 3 team policy debate rounds, and if we get judges for the Lincoln Douglas, they'll do 3 Lincoln Douglas debate rounds. So for you parents, make sure your children go to bed early tonight. Don't let them be up late printing stuff out. Don't let them be up late working and preparing. They need to go to bed. If they don't get a good night's sleep, they're going to have a miserable day tomorrow because it is a long, long day for the debaters. But a team policy debate round is it's over an hour. I mean, it can be over an hour. So judges, I've seen judges at tournaments fall asleep. One guy, he slept through the entire team policy debate round, except at the end of each speech. He sort of woke up and nodded his head and moved his pencil a little bit, and then during the next speech, he just dozed. I was afraid he's going to fall out of his chair. He was sleeping so soundly. So wiggle your foot. Whatever you do, stand up. Like while they're doing prep time, you can stand up and stretch your legs. Whatever you need to do to stay awake and to stay alert and to pay attention. And we'll talk about taking notes also. So that's the team policy. That's the structure of the team policy debate round. So let me stop there. I've given you the structure, the time limits, and I will send that document to you so you'll have it. I've talked about the burden of the affirmative team, that they have the burden of proof, if you will, so-called proof or persuasion, the burden to persuade you or convince you of the need to change and their plan to change it. Any questions? Any questions so far about team policy debate, either the structure or the theory of the debate?
Hi, Glenn. So will you be talking a little bit about how do we actually score?
Yes.
Is it like individual? Okay, so I'll hold my questions.
Yeah, sure will. Good question. All right, so let me go a little bit deeper into, well, before I do that, before I share my screen. All right, so the burden of the affirmative team. When it comes to team policy, the affirmative team needs to convince you of 2 things. The first thing is that there's a problem in the current system. And the way things are, the status quo, there's a problem. And it's a big problem and we need to fix it. So that's the first thing they got to do. There's a problem. They got to convince you that there's a problem. If you come away feeling, well, the negative team needs to argue there's no big problem. Let me just say this. If one of you is an expert, if you are an expert in artificial intelligence technology or biomedical engineering, which is the Lincoln Douglas debate, please try to leave your expert knowledge outside the debate round. Try not to bring it into the debate round with you, because you should judge the debate round not on your knowledge versus how the debaters do, but you should judge the debate round on how they debate with each other. So if the affirmative team makes a point, and but because you're an artificial intelligence or a facial recognition or whatever, because you're an expert, because you're an engineer or a scientist or whatever, and you know they just said something that's silly or ridiculous or shows a severe lack of understanding of the topic, don't count that against them unless the negative team brings it up. The negative team needs to, they need to make the argument. I mean, they need to point out the weakness that the affirmative team did. Does that make sense? So it's based on, it's try to judge based on the argumentation in the round. Don't bring in your own personal knowledge or biases into the round as much as possible. Try your best. The affirmative team has the burden to prove to you or demonstrate to you that there's a problem and that their plan will fix it. Again, there's a problem and their plan will fix it. There's a big problem and their plan will fix it. That's what they need to demonstrate. The negative team needs to say, nope, there is no big problem. It's not that bad. Things are pretty good in where we live, and everything's okay. Not perfect, but it's okay. There's not a big problem. Or they can say, yep, we agree that there are problems in the system, but the affirmative team's plan is not the plan to fix it. So let me just share with you a little bit now of a little bit more advanced debate theory. There are a couple of ways that you can think about how to judge that, right? What sort of a framework, a paradigm, if you will. And one of those ways is, and I'll send this document too, but here you go. Here's affirmative burden. There's a big problem. And our plan will solve it. The negative team says, nope, there's not a big problem, or even if there is, the affirmative team's plan won't make it better. It'll make it worse, perhaps. It certainly won't help. But one way to explore that in more depth is to think about what's called the stock issues paradigm. It's just a way of looking at things. It's a way to analyze the debate round. And so within stock issues, there are 4 stock issues. Topicality, right? So that won't be an issue, but if they were to argue about military strategy or foreign aid or humanitarian crisis or whatever it is, it would be off topic. And so that you should vote against them, if they're not topical. But I don't think that'll be a problem at all tomorrow. So the other ones are significance. Significance just simply refers to the fact that the problem that they've identified is a big problem. It's a significant problem. We're not here to talk about trivial issues. The problem should be big enough to rise to the level of being debated in the halls of Congress. So that, if it's not important enough for Congress to debate it, then it's not important enough to be a legitimate team policy debate topic. The next, let me jump down to solvency, because that was an easy one. Solvency in this context just means that they can solve it. Just kind of like what the word sounds like, So again, the 2 things I just mentioned, there's a big problem, that's significance, and that their plan will solve it. That's solvency. Inherency, the other stock issue there, is a little bit more complicated. And it just refers to the fact that the affirmative team, they would like to argue that the problem is inherent in the system, that the system itself is the problem, and therefore we need to fix it.
Enjoy. There's no video.
I don't think is that a question for me? I don't think so. If there's the affirmative wants to say that the problem is inherent in the system, and therefore we need to fix the system. If the system is broken somehow, something is wrong with the system, the problem is inherent in the system. The negative team wants to say just the opposite. The negative team wants to say that the solution is inherent in the system. That, yeah, things aren't perfect, but the system will fix it. Our Constitution, will prevail. Or, the rules that we have in place right now, this will work itself out. You don't need to worry, right? That we have a strong system that's sufficient and able to handle this problem. So that the solution, just be patient, and the solution will actually solve this thing. So the 4 stock issues can be thought of as the 4 legs of a chair. for affirmative to carry their burden, all four legs of the chair need to be strong. You wouldn't want to sit in a chair with even one broken leg or wobbly leg, right? All four legs need to be strong and sturdy before you're willing to sit in that chair. And so that's the same way with the affirmative team's case. All four stock issue, they need to demonstrate all four stock issues. If the negative team can knock even one of the legs of the chair out, then they should win. You wouldn't want to sit in that chair, and you wouldn't want to buy the affirmative team's case. Now, that's one paradigm. That's not the only paradigm. Another paradigm is net benefits, and some people think net benefits is simpler. So both paradigms are good. You can use one or both, either one or the other or both. But the net benefits just says, will the world be a better place with the affirmative team's plan? If so, vote for the affirmative team. Now, negative, one of the things negative will do, will say their plan is going to cause more problems. For example, this is just hypothetical, right? Just kind of going to the extreme case. The affirmative team says we need facial recognition on every street corner, at every store, everywhere, because that'll help us cut down on crime, right? The world will be safer, the country will be safer, we'll have less crime. If we not only have cameras everywhere, but we have facial recognition everywhere. So the government knows exactly, who's going where, the police can monitor that, and so we'll be safer. It'll be a more secure country. The negative team may say, well, that certainly would enhance, the police's ability to track people, the FBI and whatnot. So it certainly would accomplish the goal of making things easier for the police, law enforcement agencies, but it would introduce another problem, which is the loss of privacy, right? So do you really want Big Brother watching everywhere you go, knowing every move you make? And so that's a problem. So the negative team might say their plan accomplishes certain things, but it introduces worse problems, right? So negative might say, hey, the world would be a worse place with their plan, right? So yeah, their plan may solve some things that they claim to solve, but it would introduce new problems that are even worse than what we had. The cure is worse than the disease. And so in that situation, negative would want to say the world will be worse off, but affirmative wants to say the world will be better off. It'll be a better place. So the net benefits paradigm is simply, net, which is better, right? The current system that we have now, or the new system that the affirmative team proposes. Okay, so that's the net benefits paradigm, and I went over the four stock issues paradigm. Any questions about those two paradigms? Okay, so remember, in team policy, it's about a government policy change, and another thing the affirmative team needs to do is have specific mandates, specific policy initiatives that they want to change. It needs to be very specific, right, of exactly what they want to do with their policy changes. Okay, that's team policy. Now I'm going to talk about Lincoln Douglas, which is a very different form of debate. If we get those judges slots filled up, well, we'll do Lincoln Douglas regardless. I may have to ask a few students not to participate if we don't get those 5 judges slots filled up. But Lincoln Douglas is a one-on-one debate. And unlike team policy, which is very specific, Lincoln Douglas is more vague. It's more general. It's called a values debate. And for example, in Lincoln Douglas debate in past years, some of the things we have debated is the constitutional right of citizens' privacy versus police's need to investigate, right? So which is more important? The police's need to investigate and leave no stone unturned to get to the truth, or citizens' right to privacy? Now, in Lincoln Douglas debate, typically both of those things, both of them are good. You can say, well, I like both. Do I have to choose one or the other? I like privacy, but I also want the police to catch bad guys, right? To catch criminals. So that's the whole point of Lincoln Douglas debate. They are two good things, but when they are in conflict, right? When they are opposed to each other or in conflict with each other, when there's a tension between them, which should be valued higher? Citizens' privacy or the police's need to investigate, right? Which one of those should we value more highly when they are opposed to each other? Two good things. We've done the same thing with in the past with culture, which should be valued more importantly, multiculturalism or cultural assimilation. And you could say, well, cultural assimilation is good because we're all Americans, you know, we're all one country, we need to pull together and be unified. That's a good thing, right? But multiculturalism is also a good thing. People move here from other countries. It's good for them to hold on to the traditions and the customs of their parents and their grandparents and not lose all of their cultural identity. If they came from India or Mexico or China or wherever they came from, let them, you know, and it makes our country richer, right? The old, you know, are we a salad bowl mixed together, or are we, what's the other one? I can't remember. Mashed potatoes, what, I can't remember what it is. All, you know, all blended into one. Which is better? And so you can say, well, they're both good, right? You know, unity in culture is a good thing, but also, you know, the diversity and multiculturalism is a good thing. So that's the whole point. There's good things about both, but when they're in tension, when they're in conflict, which should be valued higher? Another one that we did in the past was about war. So think of just war theory, which has been a long-standing concept in Western civilization for centuries. And the particular Lincoln Douglas debate that year was about a preemptive strike. So if you know, if you have reliable intelligence that an enemy is preparing to attack you, should you strike them first to prevent war? You know, the classic example is from, it's old, but it's relevant. I mean, the principle is relevant. The classic example is when Hitler in Germany in the 1930s was building up his army and threatening to take over Europe, and he did, right? It took him a few years to build up his army, but when he amassed enough military power, he attacked Poland and he took over Poland, and they called it the Blitzkrieg, and I can't remember if it was days or hours that he took over the nation of Poland. And Poland, you know, if they had acted, if they had taken the threat seriously, perhaps they could have built up their own military, perhaps they could have gotten help from Britain or the United States, perhaps they could have attacked Germany first to take out Hitler or some of his key, you know, generals. I don't know, wipe out his tanks. I don't know, but you know, like I'm not saying Poland would have even been able to do that, but if they were able, if they had been able to attack Germany first to prevent World War II, would that have been a morally justified thing to do? Or is it better from a moral point of view, an ethical point of view, to always practice non-aggression? You always say, we will not strike unless somebody, you know, strikes first. We'll never be the one to start war. We'll never be the one to launch the first strike. We won't hit unless somebody hits us, and then we'll hit back. So which is better, right? Which is better? Is a preemptive strike ever justified? So it's these moral dilemmas, these ethical dilemmas that Lincoln Douglas debate is all about, right? And so it's not a specific government policy, but it's more vague. It's like, okay, these two things are good things. Which is better? Which should we value more highly when they are in tension or when they are in conflict with each other? This year's Lincoln Douglas debate is also a very technical, complicated topic. It has to do with biomedical engineering. And so in the field of biomedical engineering, which is more important, restraint or scientific advancement? So a lot of ethical questions and issues, moral, you know, problems or questions or challenges with, you know, monkeying around with, especially human bioengineering. Just read an article last night. It's very timely. Just read an article last night about somewhere in the world, scientists, and I didn't get the exact location, but scientists are doing experimental science and research with human embryos to try to create, half human, half animal. I don't know what I don't know what kind of animal it's going to be, but they're trying to like do scientific research on these embryos to see if they can create some sort of living organism that is part human and part, I don't know, lion, horse, whatever, I don't know. So just because we have the scientific ability or the technological ability doesn't mean necessarily that we should do something. Just because we can do something doesn't mean that we necessarily should do something. So those ethical questions or those moral dilemmas are what's LD debate is all about. So in this particular topic this year in the field of biomedical engineering, restraint should be prioritized over scientific advancement. That's what affirmative is going to be arguing for restraint. Negative is going to be arguing for scientific advancement. Okay, so there's only one topic with LD debate. They don't get to choose different topics. With Lincoln Douglas, affirmative is going to argue for restraint in the field of biomedical engineering. The negative team is going to argue for scientific advancement. That's better. That's more important. That's always a good thing, and that's always the best thing, and that's more important than restraint. Okay, so let me share my screen with you again here and show you the structure of the Lincoln Douglas debate round. Okay, where are you? There we are. The Lincoln Douglas debate round is much shorter because, again, there's just two debaters. There's one-on-one, one debater debating one debater. So there's the AC, the affirmative constructive speech, it's 6 minutes. Then there's cross-acts. Then there's the negative constructive speech, is 7 minutes. Then there's cross-acts. Then there's the 1AR. The affirmative debater gets 2 rebuttal speeches, and the negative gets 1 rebuttal speech. They get the same amount of minutes, but they're just allotted differently during the round. One thing about both Lincoln Douglas and team policy is affirmative gets the first word and the last word. And the reason that is because affirmative always is presumed to have the burden of proof. If at the end of the round, you just can't decide, you're like, man, they both did a good job, I just can't decide who to vote for. And if you really don't know, choose negative, because the affirmative always has the burden to convince you, the burden to persuade you. But this is the time limit, and I'll send this out. This is the structure of the Lincoln Douglas debate round, but it's just a very different sort of team policy is very specific about a very specific mandate. And Lincoln Douglas is more vague about which should we as a society value? Restraint in biomedical engineering or scientific advancement? You say, well, they're both good. Both of those, yeah, that's right. Both are the good things in general, but when they're in conflict, which one should be valued more highly? Okay, any questions? I'm going to look for this. I want to show you a ballot, which I will also email out to you. How do you judge, how you score the points? But any questions while I look for that?
This is actually about team policy.
Sure.
Do the debate partners talk to each other on their breaks?
They can talk to each other anytime. So we are meant to be simulating an in-person debate tournament. So, debate tournaments, I guess, are supposed to be held in person, but we did our first online debate tournament last year because of the environment, everything that was happening. It was our first time to do an online debate tournament, and so it was very popular, and we decided to do it again this year. And so, but it's meant to simulate an in-person debate tournament. So in an in-person debate tournament, they would be sitting side by side at a table together, and they would be able to pass notes to each other, whisper to each other, of course, talk to each other during prep time. So they can do that. They can get on the phone and talk to each other. They can chat. with private chat through the Zoom meeting, whatever they
Oh,
want
that's
to.
what I was wondering.
Yeah,
Okay. Like how
they-
they,
they can't get online and research. They're not supposed to do that. That's supposed to be done all before the debate tournament starts, but they can communicate with each other, no problem.
okay. Okay. That's what I was trying to figure out. I was like, if they say their ideas to each other, everybody will hear them.
Oh no, they can email, they can get on a,
Alright.
they can
Okay.
text through the phone, or there's a private chat where they can chat directly to each other within the Zoom meeting.
Okay. That makes sense.
And I'm sorry, I'm having trouble finding. Oh, there it is. Okay, here we go. Okay, here's a TP ballot. And again, I'll send this to you. So this is how you, so the biggest thing is, the most important thing is who won the round, right? Down here, who won the round. If you don't do anything else, I need that. And actually, it takes time to fill out these ballots. So what I actually need for you to do is, oh, I didn't have my screen shared, did I? So I was pointing to something you couldn't even see. All right, I'm about to show you the ballot, and I'm glad I came back to talk to you because I didn't realize I thought I was sharing my screen and I wasn't sharing it. The ballot takes a while to fill out, especially if you've never done it before, and you want to give comments, right? You want to give as many comments as you can to the students. This is to help them. This is to encourage them, be gentle. Don't say that was a really stupid argument. I can't believe you said such a, ridiculous thing. Don't do that, just be encouraging. They're beginners, right? They're novices, and this is to help them. And, we're all doing this to help the students. That's the only reason any of us are doing this. So be encouraging, be gentle, and try to tell them the things they did well. Even if it's only, you had a really nice smile and you were very polite and cordial, and I really appreciate, the professional, positive attitude that you displayed. Just anything, right? Where they make them feel encouraged that they did something well. And when you offer them, do offer them constructive feedback, but say it, I think your argument would have been better if you had included this thing, right? Or the other team brought up this point that you weren't able to respond to. If you had something more to respond to that particular thing, your argument would have been better. Try to give them something, at least one or two tangible things that they could have improved upon, right? So but be encouraging, be helpful, be instructive, be as best you can, leave comments that are not hurtful but that are give them a learning points. This is meant to be an educational thing for them. So give them learning points, give them tangible ways that they could have done better, that they can do better the next time they do this. But before you do all that, please email me and tell me who won and who lost, because while you're doing that, I am organizing the next debate round. And so I want to put winners against winners and the people who lost against the people who lost, because we're trying to work towards a final, right? And we don't have, this is kind of a fast and furious debate tournament. We don't have it's not like a full playoff system where there's a clear elimination. But as best as I can, I'm gonna match the stronger teams against the stronger teams and the weaker teams against the weaker teams. One, so that it's more enjoyable. It's not enjoyable for a weak team to go against a really strong team. It's also not enjoyable for the really strong team to go against a really weak team. People want to be matched up at their level. So I'm going to try to, it's not going to be perfect, but I'm going to try to do that as best I can. But the other thing is we want to try to see if we can get the best two teams as best I can in the final round. So before you finish filling, right away, as soon as you might not know right away, like you might need to work on the ballot a few minutes before you make a decision. But as soon as you can, email me and tell me this team won and this team lost. Last year I said, tell me who is the winner and who is the loser. And one parent objected right away. Oh, don't call anybody losers. Okay, I understand. I'm not meaning to call your children losers. That wasn't, I wasn't meaning to be offensive, but I need to, this is not the thing where everybody wins, right? Because this is a competitive tournament. One team has to win and one team has to lose. So I need to know who that is, right? So that I can match up the teams who won that round with the one, and then the one who lost, so that it can be a better experience for everybody. So I need to know that information as quickly as possible so I can get the next round organized. And then you can have more time to work on your ballot for as long as you need. Here is the team policy ballot. So here's the most important thing: who won the round? Alf or neg, put that in there, and why. Give them feedback. The why is to help the students. I mean, that's really where and if you need to add another sheet, that's fine. You send me as many sheets as you want to. But who won the round, F or neg, and why? And then in addition to who won the round, and that you refer to your debate theory, the things we talked about who won the round. These boxes are for grading, scoring points on different categories. So 1 being the weakest, and 5 being the strongest. And there's six categories. So in theory, somebody could get a 30. Don't give a 30 unless you've got Aristotle, in the debate round. And don't give a 5 either, right? Because that's just demoralizing, right? Try to keep your scores if you can, between 15 and 25. If somebody's really, really, really great, then okay, you can go higher. If somebody's really weak and it's obvious that they didn't do a good performance, then maybe go down to 10 or 12 or whatever. But try to moderate your scores, and don't give anybody a perfect score, but also don't give anybody all ones either, if possible. Rate them on these categories: persuasiveness, organization, delivery style. Some people have really good delivery, really good style, but so that has nothing, like if their content is really lousy, just really weak and no good, but they're a very polished, good speaker, then give them a high score on delivery style. Evidence, like did they come to the round with strong evidence, and did they use it well? Cross-examination, how did they do in either, with asking smart questions of the other team, or in responding to the questions that the other team asked? And then refutation of opponents' arguments, right? So how well did they do in taking the other team's other opponents' arguments and refuting them? So some of these have to do with substance, some of these have to do with style and sort of the external, right? The package, rather than what's on the inside. It's possible that the losing team could get the higher number of points. It's rare, it doesn't usually happen, but because somebody could have really good arguments and be a really good debater, but not a very good speaker, it's possible that or at least not a very polished speaker, kind of rough around the edges, but they really have really good arguments. It's possible that you could, the winning debate team could have lower points. That is, it's unusual, but it is possible. It does happen. But anyway, these points are for each different speaker. Okay, so each different speaker you want to give these points to, and then you want to rank the speakers, right? Which speaker was the so this is for the first affirmative, this is for the first negative, this is for the second affirmative, and this is for the second negative. And so you want to rank the speaker, and then when you rank them, number 1 means the best of the 4. Number 4 means the weakest of the 4. So you want to rank the 4 speakers in terms of 1 to 4, who was the best and who was the weakest. There's also a Lincoln Douglas ballot. And I know we're running short on time. I'll finish this soon. Appreciate you bearing with me. Here's the Lincoln Douglas ballot. Again, there's only 2. Again, who won? need to know who won. You can circle that or write it in, and why, give the feedback. But before you finish the ballot, if you would, email me who won and who lost so I can organize the next round. Again, the points, 1 is the weakest, 5 is the strongest. But the categories are a little bit different. They're similar. They're very similar, but not exactly the same, but they're very similar. And then there's only 2 speakers. You rank them first speaker and second, right? So first is the best speaker, and second is the weaker one here of the 2. So those are the ballots. I will also send you something that we call a flow sheet. This is for taking notes. And it gives you the flow of the round. I mean, the time limits, so the structure of the round is here, but you can write in the notes, shorthand, of course, or you can print out as many of these as you want, or you can just fold up a piece of paper and then you draw lines on a piece of paper. But these columns, the benefit of doing these columns is that you can write what the 1AC said, and then you can write what the 1AC and then the 1NC. And you can, if there's a same topic, so let's say that there's privacy issue, right? Concerns about privacy. Every time they bring up privacy, you can put that sort of in the same place in terms of vertical, on the same place in the paper, so that you can flow horizontally. If there's one idea that keeps getting repeated, you can flow that horizontally across all the rounds. That's the reason we call it a flow sheet, or call this method of taking notes flowing. You're flowing the round so that it's not perfect, it'll be messy, but as best you can line up similar ideas horizontally across this paper. I'm out of time. I covered barely everything I wanted to cover with you. We started a few minutes late, so take it easy on me. I've actually gone about an hour, or maybe 58 minutes, because we started a couple of minutes late. Do you have questions? I'm not going to keep you long, but if you have any pressing questions, I want to answer those. And then again, I'm recording this, and I'll send out a link to the recording in case you want to watch it again. Any questions?
I have a question.
Yeah.
So for the flowing, what is the point that you want to see the flow across that chart?
Oh, so that's just your note taking, the points that they're making, right? So as the debaters are debating, if you think one of them made a good point, then that's what you put down. It's up to your judgment. And Sophia, I think you came in a few minutes late, but what I was saying at the beginning is, look, I know this is new for all of you. Don't worry about it. It's new for most of the debaters as well. Don't feel like you need to be an expert judge. Don't worry about making mistakes. What you're doing is you're helping them. If you weren't judging, I would have to cancel the tournament, right? So you're helping students. So don't worry about not being good enough or not doing it right or anything like that. These are all tools that I'm trying to share with you, but when it comes down to it, you're the judge, and you decide who won and you decide why. And you tell the students who won the debate round and why. And you give them feedback. For the ones that lost the debate round, you give them feedback. Hey, if you'd done this or that other thing, it would have been better. Whatever. Give them the reasons that you voted for one team and not the other. Make it constructive, make it gentle, but give them reasons. So I've showed you all that, but you know what? Do whatever you want. You don't have to. Nobody's going to grade your judging. Let me tell you that nobody's going to grade your judging. I just need to know from you who won and who lost the debate round. So whatever points you put on your flow sheet, it's according to your own judgment, what you heard in the round, what the debaters convinced you was important, and what's on your flow sheet is for you. Nobody will ever see that. The only thing that I will see is your ballot. The students will see your ballots because I'll share the ballots with the students for their learning. but they won't see your flow sheets. So, you can draw pictures of Snoopy, and Superman on your flow sheet if you want to. Nobody will see it. I don't recommend that, but nobody will see it. The only thing they'll see is the ballot.
I mean, like what helpful? I mean, like I understand what you're saying, but I wonder like how the flow sheet helping in terms of justice. Like you want to see that they follow a point consistently, or like what is the helpful point to using that?
It's just to help you organize your thoughts. And again, nobody will see your flow sheet. So it's kind of like when you took notes in college, nobody graded your notes that you took during class. What you got, the notes are for you. But so if as you're doing the flow sheet, if you can keep like sort of they keep coming, it's really if they keep coming back to the same idea, and one says one thing and the other one argues against it, you can sort of write what they're saying across horizontally across the flow sheet to help keep it organized for yourself. Right? That's all it is.
And didn't you say like earlier, if they don't, like if somebody says some type of idea and like the other team doesn't address it, that would kind of be like against them or something?
It certainly could be if you think it's important. Again, it's up to you, but that's the concept of dropped arguments. One team makes an argument and the other team fails to respond to it. That would be a dropped argument. And some people make a big deal out of dropped arguments, and some debaters try to bring up like 100 arguments and say, well, they only responded to 98 of them. Well, there's 2 dropped arguments, right? We should win. It's not, to me, it's not that simple. It's what's most important. It's like, yeah, you brought up 100 arguments, but only 2 of them, had any merit, and they responded to those 2, and the 98,
Gotcha.
the 98 they ignored, So it's like, yeah, dropped argument can be important if they don't respond, but also how weighty is it? Is it a weighty, important argument that they should have responded to, or is it trivial? And it doesn't, so therefore you don't think it really hurts them that they didn't respond to it. Yeah, my point about that was don't bring in your own specialized knowledge. If you know a lot about the topic, don't judge the students based on your knowledge, but based on the students, do your judging based on how the debaters debate with each other, on what they say and what they do and how they argue.
Glenn, I have 2 kind of logistical questions.
Sure.
One is, should we give the kids feedback verbally at the end? Like, should we tell them who won and like give them some verbal feedback, or should we just let them know that they'll get their judge sheets later?
Yeah. Okay. Another question?
Oh, and my other question was just, I'm guessing that you'll send us links that we'll join in the morning for the judging sessions, and just tell us how that will work.
Yeah. So let me answer the second one first, because that's an important one. It'll be a Zoom meeting like this that I will invite everyone to, and that Zoom meeting will last throughout the day. And when it's your turn to judge, I will put you into a breakout room. Zoom calls them breakout rooms, but you'll be in the room like this, the computer screen like this with everybody. And then I will put you into a breakout room, and then suddenly on your screen will appear just yourself and the debaters, either 4 debaters or 2 debaters. So that'll be a breakout room. So that's how I'll do it. And then when you're done, you'll leave the breakout room or even leave the meeting completely and send me, an email about who won and who lost, and then send me the ballot. So it'll all be on a Zoom meeting. So thank you for raising that question. That's an important one. The first one is an important one too. Please do not give them feedback at all. Just thank them both. Be polite, be cordial. You can tell them, I've judges quite often say, you all did great. I'm really impressed with all 4 of you, or with both of you, or whatever it is. You can sort of give them general encouragement, but don't tell them who won and who lost. Don't tell them why that one did better than the other. Don't give them feedback at all. All of that will come later on the ballot. there's a couple of reasons for that. We don't want students to know who won and who lost during the day. The day is this competitive tournament it's like being in a mental fist fight all day long, right? It's like being in mental hand-to-hand combat. It is emotionally draining and challenging day for the students, and their emotions kind of go like that, at least some of the more emotional ones, all day long. And you don't want to say or do anything to either make them ride that emotional, roller coaster up or down. You just thank you both. You all you both did a good job, both teams. I'm very impressed. It's wonderful what you're doing, whatever you want to say to kind of give general encouragement. All of yours, we don't want them to know which rounds they won or lost until the very end. After the tournament, they'll get their ballots. And we don't want them to know any specific feedback until after the tournament. So later that night or the next day, they can sit down calmly and read over their ballots and receive their feedback that way. When the round is over, they should be thinking about kind of relaxing and then getting ready for the next round, not hearing feedback yet.
That's great. Thanks for clarifying that.
One thing is when you are judging, please turn on your cameras. I haven't asked you to do that, right now, no problem, but it is a little bit uncomfortable talking to people's names on a computer screen and not seeing your face. So the students, they need to turn on their computer screen so you can see their faces. And as a courtesy to them, when you're judging debate rounds, please turn on your screen. I understand that sometimes you're in your pajamas or whatever, or the kitchen's a mess and you don't want people to see, but please do turn on your screens so the students can see your faces. It's just more comfortable for everybody. Okay, can you hear me? Did I freeze up? Looked like it might have freezed it.
Yep, got it. We'll do.
Okay. Any other questions before I let you go? Okay, well, I'm going to end this. I'll send out this recording. So if you want to watch it again, that's fine. I'll send out the documents that I referred to so you can read over those. One last thing. Just really quickly, one last thing. Please help me fill these 4 boxes. I don't want to have to tell a handful of students that they can't participate tomorrow. So, but I'm going to have to. I mean, if we don't have judges, at the last minute. So we're going to have the tournament. That's the good news. We are going to have the tournament, and we have team policy covered, but we don't have Lincoln Douglas covered. It is the easier of the two to judge. It is the shorter time limit. It's only about an hour that you have to invest instead of maybe 2 hours for team policy. But I don't want to have to tell 2 or 3 students, I'm sorry, but you can't do LD today, because they've all worked hard. I think they have. I think they're all excited. I think they're all looking forward to it. I think it would be a disappointment for any of them to hear at the last minute, you can't do LD. They're all going to get to do TP, which is great. I'm thankful for that. I had a real question in my mind up until just a couple of hours ago. But TP's covered, but Lincoln Douglas is not. So those are the 4 blanks right there. Those 4 empty yellow boxes are the ones that we need. We need judges. So please, please, please. These are nice young people, and I want them to have a good tournament tomorrow. So if you can do anything to help us, please help us fill up those boxes. Okay, that's the end of this meeting. Thank you for attending the training. Thank you for volunteering to judge, and I will send you this information shortly via email.
You're sending it to all of the participants?
I've already shared these types of documents and information with the students, if that's what you're asking.
No, I'm sorry. Like, I have 2 friends that are judging, but they both work, so they couldn't get on.
Yeah, anybody that signed up to judge will get the recording and get the documents. Okay. Yes, that's right.
Thank you.
That's right.
Okay.
Sure. No, thank you. Thank you for recruiting judges. All right. That's Jessica Stevenson talking, by the way, and she is she signed up for like 25 debate rounds already. She signed up for a lot. So we really appreciate your help, Jessica. Thank you so
A
much.
little bit of exaggeration.
Not much. Okay, thank you all.
Thank you.